round. Stomach ailments that had plagued him since the Civil War flared up again. Pemberton took to his bed, and his company nearly went under. The true success of Coca-Cola would come too late for the man who created it. John Pemberton died in August 1888 at the age of 57, never having tasted the success he had sought all his life.
Pemberton was just one of these guys who was always trying to, get the golden ring, and he just didn't make it. I mean, he had no history of success. And I think there's a good argument that might suggest that had John Pemberton remained the person behind the product, that the product would never have achieved the success that it has achieved.
You wonder why he didn't do more to take advantage of his invention, but of course at the time it was worthless and it hadn't become what it would become. And if you'd bet on Coca-Cola back in its first year or two, you'd be a rich man today, but you'd have been considered a reckless man back then.
In fact, the man who would rescue Doc Pemberton's invention probably couldn't have been any less reckless. Asa Griggs Candler once asked Doc Pemberton for a job and was turned down. Like Pemberton, he'd come to Atlanta to seek his fortune. He had arrived in the city at age 21 with $1.75 in his pocket, looking for work in a drugstore. He couldn't get a job at Pemberton's, but he eventually recovered from that blow. Unlike Pemberton, he did make his fortune in Atlanta. By the late 1880s, his company was taking in as much as $100,000 a year. He was also a pillar of rectitude. No one could accuse Asa Candler of being a frivolous man, whether in his business dealings or his personal beliefs. For him, the two were intertwined, a common way of looking at the world for businessmen of the time.
Corporate America in general, around Asa Candler's time, was fascinated by the notion of, what you'd call the social gospel, that one would go into business with the same fervor that one would go into religion and craft a better world on earth.
I think Candler was just a great, robust capitalist. I think he wanted to make money, and I don't think he found it at all inconsistent with being a devout Christian as well. One of the things I like about this man is that he starts annual meetings of his company by leading the singing of Onward Christian Soldiers.
Sometime in 1888, Robinson came to Candler and asked the pharmacist if he wanted to invest in Coca-Cola. The answer was no. He wasn't interested in a new product, and besides, his drugstore didn't have a soda fountain where he could sell Coca-Cola anyway. Then, a historic event. Asa Candler tried Coca-Cola for the first time. It is probably safe to call that one glass the most important Coke ever served. Later, Candler would claim that that one drink made him a true believer in the possibilities of Coca-Cola.
Candler's genius, I think, lie in the fact that he did see the opportunities that were there in broadening the base of the beverage out of its Atlanta beginnings into becoming increasingly more of a national beverage.
By 1891, Candler was the sole owner of Coca-Cola. His total investment, about $2,300. Sales had already begun to take off in Atlanta. Now Candler set about making Coca-Cola a household word.
What Candler possessed that Pemberton did not was a vision, and he also possessed a very strong marketing capability.
Of course, he didn't give up his other products right away.
And as a matter of fact, in early advertising for Coca-Cola, you sometimes will see this mouthwash, Delect Delave, on one side of a piece of advertising, Coca-Cola on the other. He was hedging his bets. He wasn't sure which was going to make it, so he had them both up there.
If Coca-Cola was going to expand beyond its regional roots, Candler would have to make people aware of this new beverage. He had to convince a skeptical public that it was special and make them care whether they got the real thing or not. But Candler had faith in Coca-Cola and believed that one glass would win over even the toughest customer. In the beginning, he turned to a trick Frank Robinson had been using, giving Coca-Cola away for free. He hired traveling salesmen to hand out tickets in cities and towns across the country, each one good for a free glass of Coca-Cola. In essence, Asa Candler wanted to buy the world of Coke.
And obviously the concept was, you'd try it once, you'd like it, the next time you came in, you'd pay for it. Very simple, elementary concept, but Coke was the first company to use that concept. And Candler was the one who recognized that in order to get business, you had to get folks to try the product first.
In 1895 alone, the company redeemed $7,700 worth of coupons, 154,000 glasses of Coke, and sales continued to climb. Of course, there was a limit to what coupons could do. At the end of the 19th century, there were no national media, no easy way to reach every citizen of a sprawling rural country. Putting the idea of Coca-Cola in people's minds meant finding creative ways to get this message out. So beginning in the 1890s, Asa Candler's company put the distinctive Coca-Cola logo on advertisements that would follow the consumer around.
Things like calendars, things like posters, things that people would carry with them like notebooks and bookmarks, things that would be used by the average person in the daily course of their business. And by the way, there was an ad for this new product, and maybe the next time they went into a soda fountain, they would try this new product.
Everything carried the name of the brand. And that's what we talk about today is great marketing, that you can have your brand in front of the consumer at every point of contact. And that's what Coca-Cola did even in 1890.
Today, these giveaway items command thousands of dollars from collectors. At the time, they helped separate Coca-Cola from a crowd of competitors and give it an air of class.
The ads feature women of prominence, attainment, and some artsiness. And that artistic quality, I think, has always been associated with Coca-Cola. The beautiful script, the Spencerian writing, which is something practiced by people who've had good schooling. Everything smacks of decorum and moving slightly above one's station in life.
Coca-Cola never, I think, thought about cost savings. They were doing all high-end production of all of their work. The advertisements, the illustrations, when they moved into photography, all of it was very high quality, and they were doing high quality printing at a time when there weren't very many choices of what they could do.
The 1-2 punch of coupons and advertising giveaways did the job. As early as 1897, the company's in-house magazine could claim the great American eagle, that discriminating bird of freedom, is passionately fond of Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola has become a national drink. Still, bright as his company's future looked, Candler found that his success was being shadowed. Rumors had begun to spread that Coca-Cola was not just a simple soda fountain beverage. According to these rumors, it contained cocaine, even though cocaine had never been an added ingredient in Coca-Cola. The idea that his product was perceived as harmful enraged the straight-laced Sunday school teaching Candler. Indeed, Asa Candler's position was clear. He told the Atlanta Journal that he would shut the company down immediately if there were ever one single case of anyone being harmed by the drink. His final public word on the matter, and by extension the company's, was stated in an early pamphlet. There is not one indivisible atom of cocaine in an ocean of Coca-Cola. That is absolute and final. By the end of the 19th century, Coca-Cola was being sold in some quantity in all 46 states. Yet nearly all those sales came at soda fountains. Anyone who wanted to take a bottle of Coke with them was probably out of luck, and Asa Candler didn't see anything wrong with that.
One can make the argument that Candler lacked vision in the sense that he never grasped